Hey, my name's Izzy. This is Rolling Virtual Cards coming at you live with another Magic the Gathering deck build. Magic the Deck Gathering build. Magic the Gathering deck build here. This is continuing the 28 Atraxas I was trying to do back in February. I figured I'd just upload them anyway, regardless of the fact that I failed to get all 28 out in February. That was not a great month for me. But this one is horrors. So yeah, we'll go over Atraxa again for a quick second. Atraxa Praetor's Voice is green, white, blue, black, so sans red, or Witch Maw. For a 4/4 legendary creature, angel, horror. It's technically, I believe, Phyrexian, yeah. Phyrexian angel horror. With flying, vigilance, death touch, lifelink, and at the beginning of your end step, proliferate, which means you choose any number of permanents or players, then give them each another counter of each kind already there. Atraxa is the most popular commander to ever be printed. It does a lot if, in so many ways. There's a reason I could make 28 decks with her. I think a lot of the 4-color decks can be built 28 different ways, but I think Atraxa really pushes that notion with thematical ideology. So, this one's horror. She is a horror, so I thought, why not build horror tribal? What does she bring to the thing? Well, you're running a lot of horror things that care about counters. Other than that, Atraxa is a really good just body to hit people with and keep your life up and protect your creatures. So, let's go through the card by card. First off, the 14 +1/+1 counter creatures. We've got V-Build, a black for a 0/0 summon horror. V-Build comes into play with 1/1 counter. During your upkeep, you may put a 1/1 counter on V-Build. When V-Build attacks or blocks, destroy it in combat. So the idea of V-Build is that each upkeep he keeps getting bigger and bigger. You know, V-Build, building it. But with Atraxa on the field, you're going to get it 2 1/1 counters each rotation. So it's going to go 1/1, and then if Atraxa on the field, it'll be 2/2, and the next turn 3/3, and then 4/4 at the end turn, 5/5. So it can get pretty big, and if you just keep it there, keep it protected, you're able to just eventually punch someone really hard, and then it dies. Metallic Mimic, you choose a creature type, in this case horror, and then it is the chosen creature type, so it becomes a horror. And then each other creature you control the chosen type into the battlefield with the 1/1 counter. Getting it a 1/1 counter means Atraxa can make it bigger slowly. Patchwork Crawler is 1 in a blue for a 1/2 zombie horror. For 1 in a blue, you can exile target creature card from your graveyard and put a 1/1 counter. It has all activated abilities of all creatures' cards, except for them. You do lose those abilities when he leaves the field, but getting those activated abilities is actually really good. Plus, it's a way to put a 1/1 counter on it so that Atraxa can slowly start building it up. Chasm Skulker is 2 in a blue for a 1/1 squid horror. Whenever you draw a card, you put a 1 counter on it. And whenever it dies, create X 1/1 blue squid creature tokens with Island Walk, where X is the number 1/1 counters it. Chasm Skulker is something I call a board wipe protection. If you have Chasm Skulker on the field, and oh look, I drew 2 cards, and Atraxa's putting more 1/1 counters, and you have like 5 1/1 counters on it, 6, like. You can get up to 10, but let's say 5. If someone goes board wipe because you have too many horrors and the field's gross, you're going to come out of it with 5 1/1s with Island Walk. That's still great. And with the easy way to put 1/1 counters on it sometimes with Atraxa, you're just going to all of a sudden just, oh look, I'm just going to take the field over again anyway. So people are going to go like, I could board wipe, but it doesn't do much. I'm going to have to kill Chasm Skulker and then board wipe. Flesh Carver is 2 in the black for a 2/2 human wizard with intimidate, so good evasion there. 1 in a blue, 1 in a black. Sacrifice another creature. Put 2 1/1 counters on Flesh Carver. Okay, great. So it's a sack outlet. You kill off your creatures like your Chasm Skulker if you want to get all those tokens. And it gets a 1/1 counter, so it can get big. When it dies, you put an XX black horror creature token on the battle, exit its power. So as long as you get it really big all of a sudden. Oh, look, it's another thing like Chasm Skulker. It's got 5 counters on it. It's now a 7/7. Someone blows the field up, I get a 7. I get a 7/7. Cool. Grakmaw Skyclave Ravager is 1 a black and a green for a 0/0 Hydra Horror. It enters the battlefield with 3 1/1 counters on it. When another creature you control dies, if it had a 1/1 counter on it, put a 1/1 counter on Grakma. When it dies, you create an XX black and green Hydra creature token, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on it. So it's going to hit the field with 3. You're going to start getting it bigger and bigger with Atraxa. And then other creatures die. Oh, cool. Could put more 1/1 counters on him. And again, oh, cool. Someone board wiped. Well, I've got Chasm and Grakma. So I'm going to get like a 6/6 and then like a nice... and then 5 1/1s or something. Gurgling Anointer is 2 and a black for 1/3 Phyrexian Horror with flying, and whenever you draw your second card each turn, you put a 1/1 counter on it, and when it dies, return another target creature card with mana value less than or equal to the power. So again, board wipe, cool. I'm just gonna grab V-Builder back or Grakma back or something. Vashta Narda is 2 and a black for a 1/1 Alien Horror with Indestructible with and Shadow, so it's hard to block. Can only be blocked by other shadow people, not that it can block. But Morbid, at the beginning of each instep, if a creature died this turn, put a 1/1 counter on it. So, oh look, I stacked something to Flesh Carver to put 2 1/1 counters on it. Now Vishta is going to get a 1/1 counter on it. And then I'm going to start getting them both bigger with Atraxa. Wolfstrider is 2 and a black for a 3/2 horror. It enters the battlefield with you get to create a 0/1 white goat. You can sacrifice another creature to scry one, so you can sack the goat to scry something right away. And then for 3 and 2 black, you can exile 4 other creature cards from your graveyard and cast it from your graveyard. And then it escapes your graveyard with 2 1/1 counters on it, which means it's a 5/4, and then the Atraxa can get it bigger. Zealot's Sanity Flare is 2 and a blue for a 2/3 horror. Hive Mind, so whenever a player mills 1 or more creature cards, you get to create a 1/1 black horror creature token. And then for 1, you can tap it, target player mills 3 cards. Oh, this is not a 1/1 counter card. I don't know how that got on there. This is a token card. Token, fixing, token. We'll go over him in a second. Grim Gorger is 2, a black, and a green for 3/3 horror with menace. Whenever it attacks, exile up to one of each card type from defending player's graveyard. Put a 1/1 counter on Grim Gorger for each card exiled. So if you exile like a fetch land, one of their instances, and a sorcery, like those 3, let's say. Oh look, it gets 3 1/1 counters. And it's got menace, so it's harder to block. And even if they do block it, like they got double block, they're going to get 2 for 1. Even if they like double block with stuff that could kill it. And it's going to get bigger and bigger, which is always great. Renegade Silent is 3 and a blue for a 3/3 alien horror. And at the beginning of your end step, goad up to 1 target creature you don't control and put a 1/1 counter on Renegade Silenter. Renegade Silenter phased out, so it's hard to touch him. At each end step, he just keeps disappearing. You got to kill him on my turn. But being able to goad my opponent's stuff is really great. That's just a great interactive. Oh, your big guy can't hit me. Cool. Protection plus force you to hit someone else. And it gets 1/1 counters, so you can get the 1/1 counter, and then once it has 1/1 counters, you can start giving it more with Atraxa and getting it bigger. Undergrowth Scavengers 3 and a green for a 0/0 fungus. I'm going to zoom in a little here. There we go. For a, can I do one more zoom in? There we go. Now you can see the card a little better. For a 3 and a green for a fungus horror, it enters the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the number of creature cards in all graveyards. So if there's like 10 creature cards in the graveyards, or yeah, like with 4 graveyards, yeah, like 8. Let's say there's 8, 2 each, right? Or the average on 2 each. All of a sudden, it comes in as an 8/8, and then it can just get bigger and bigger. It can be blocked, but like you'll beat the crap out of people anyway. Frog Hemoth is 3 and 2 green for a 4/4 frog horror with trample and haste, which are both absolutely fantastic. Great way to just get in, hit them hard, and then not be able to and have that little bit of evasion. And whenever it deals combat damage to player, exile up to that many target cards from their graveyard. Put a 1/1 counter on Frog Hemoth for each creature card exiled this way. You gain 1 life for each non-creature card exiled this way. So you just exile. Oh, I hit you for 4. I'm just gonna exile those 2 creatures and those 2 non-creatures. It's a 6/6 now. I'll gain 2 life. And the next turn, you're gonna exile 6 cards, and you can just target the person that has the most creatures, usually just to get them bigger, unless you need the life gain. 2 -1/-1 counters that happen to work in horror. because of Infect. So Reaper of Shieldred is 4 and a black for a 2/5 horror with Infect. And Infect will do poison counters and -1/-1 counters if it's blocked. And whenever a source deals damage to Reaper of Shieldred, that source's controller gets a poison counter. So if it gets blocked, they're going to get a poison counter regardless. It's a 2/5, which means a lot of people might go, oh, I'll just block it with like my 3 toughness guy. But that 3 toughness guy is going to get 2/-1 counters, making it weaker, which isn't great for them, and they're still going to get a poison counter. And mind you, giving a poison counter to opponent in Atraxa is just a slow death sentence because of Atraxa slowly. It's almost like she gives, for a Pokemon reference, Atraxa makes poison counters not poison, but toxic, so they lose more life. Phyrexian Swarmlord is 4 and 2 green for a 4/4 insect horror with Infect, and at the beginning of your upkeep, put a 1/1 green insect creature token with Infect onto the battlefield for each poison counter your opponents have. So as long as you can give them some poison counter or hit them with Phyrexian Swarmlord, that's 4 1/1 insects with poison. Like, that's pretty gross. Roaming Throne is 4 generic for a 4/4 golem with Ward 2, so it's got good protection. And it's got abilities, and what I mean by abilities is like it interacts with other abilities. So like, it enters the battle if you choose a creature type, so in this case horror. It's the chosen creature type, so it becomes a horror, gets all those anthems. But if a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. This means like Atraxa's trigger at the end step means you get 2 proliferate each time. But also like stuff like Phyrexian Swarmlord will get double triggered, and Reaper Shieldred will double trigger, and Frogmouth will double trigger, Renegade double triggers, Grimgory triggers, a lot of double triggers off of all your creatures. Very strong there. ETBs are always good in every single deck. Being able to trigger something on enter means even if someone kills it, you get something good. Eternal Witness is a classic. 1 and 2 green for a 2/1 human shaman. Enters, you just return a card from your graveyard to your hand. So you get to do over. Grill Philosopher is 2 and a green, 2 and a blue for a 1/4 horror wizard. Abhorrent Tinkering. When Grill Philosopher enters the battlefield, and at the beginning of your upkeep, each horror you control gains all activated abilities of a target artifact an opponent controls until their turn. You may spend blue mana as though a mana of any color to activate those effects. This is a really strong card. Being able to just like make it so that all your horrors have a Soul Rings ability. You can ramp so hard with that. And every once in a while, an opponent might have a cool activated ability on their artifact that you can just spam. Realm Walker's 2 and a green for a 2/3 shapeshifter, so it's got change thing, which means it is a horror in this case. And when it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, horror. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may cast creature spells of the chosen type at the top of your library. So this just gives you good card advantage. It does technically have an ETB, because you choose the creature type on ETB. But in this case, you're just going to choose horror. We went over Warstride. Its ETB gives you the goat, so that's always good. And then Umbrous Fear Manifest is 3, a blue and a black for a 1/1 Nightmare Horror. It enters, or when it Umbrous Manifest gets +1/+1 for each card your opponent owns in exile. And then whenever it or another nightmare or horror enters the battlefield under control, target opponent exiles cards from the top of the library until the exile end. I call this Super Mill. You don't put it in the graveyard, you put it into exile. But he gets really big, really fast in this deck because you have a lot of nightmares. Not nightmares, a lot of horrors that just come out and just start messing with people. Magecraft. Magecraft is an actual ability in in Magic the Gathering, where whenever you cast an instant sorcery, cast or copy an instant sorcery, you get to trigger an effect. I use Magecraft just to identify whenever you cast something triggers. So Thing in the Ice is 1 in a blue for a 0/4 horror with Defender, and when it comes in with 4 ice counters, and whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, remove an ice counter from it. And if no ice counters are on, it lets you transform. So this triggers every time you cast an instant sorcery, and it transforms into a 7/8 Kraken horror. And when it transforms into Awaken Horror, return all non-horror creatures to their owner's hands. So you get to keep your Atraxa and all your horrors. You just bounce all their stuff back usually. And you get a 7-8, which is pretty nice. Oh, they made it much easier. I didn't know they did that. Well, that's good. I can totally... Oh wow, they really did, didn't they? That's interesting. Yeah, okay, good to know. I didn't know that they added that, so yeah, that I can quickly do that. Cool. But anyways, decent or docent of perfection is 3 and 2 green, 3 and 2 blue for a 5/4 insect horror. Flying, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 blue human wizard creature token on the battlefield. Then, if you control 3 or more wizards, transform Docent to Perfection into Eldrazi Insect. 6/5 flying. Wizards you control get +2/+1 and have flying. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue wizard creature token onto the battlefield. Put 1. So, it is a horror in and out of itself with flying, but getting a lot of tokens off of just accidentally casting your instant sources is great. And then if you control 3 or more wizards, you get to transform him. So he's more of a wizard card, but he's not bad in the horror deck. He's just a good way to get tokens out and then make their tokens, instead of 1/1s, they're now 3/2s with flying. So Reflection of Litjara is 4 and a blue for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type, so you just get to choose I didn't give... Did I? No, I never put the ETB on there. There we go. So yeah, you choose a creature type, in this case horror, and then whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, copy that spell. So, copies of so like if you choose horror, you get a second Docent, or a second Thing in the Ice, or a second Woe Strider, a second Umbrus, and then it dies. But you get the exile still. Really strong way to just double up all your horrors. And Vanquish Banister is 5, and when it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. ETB. There we go. You choose a creature type, so horror. And when creatures of the chosen type get an anthem, a nice +1/+1. And then whenever you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, you get a draw card. So right there, getting the draw card off of each cast of a horror is great. Ramp. Our ramp package is pretty simple. Birds to tap for any color. Wait for his bobble to go search for a land. Arc Insignia caps for any color. Farseek can go grab you a non-forest. Follower Stone taps for any color your opponents can produce. Rampant Growth will go grab you a basic land. Tribalder Steve grabs you a basic land. Chromatic Lantern will tap for any color and then allow all your lands to tap for any color. So it has mana fixing in it. Commander Sphere taps for any color and then you can sack it to draw cards. So you can tap it for 1 and then sack it if you need to get extra cards. Cultivate grabs you 2 basic lands, 1 to the field, 1 onto the hand. Same thing with Kodama's Reach. And then Herald's Horn is 3 for an artifact, and when it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type. Let me put this in ETB here. Always cleaning up while I do videos, I guess. But so it comes in and nicely allows you to choose horrors, and then the horrors cost 1 less, which is where the ramping comes in. Over time, all the horrors you casting costing 1 less will be better than like 1 land. But it also doesn't fix your mana coloring, so it's up and down. But then at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to look at the top card of your library, and if it's a creature of the chosen type, you can reveal it and put it in your hand. So as long as you draw, like, oh, horror, put it in hand. Recursion is very strong in Magic. You have to remind yourself, when you test play, you're not really testing playing stuff dying. So not having recursion in your deck really means, oh wow, I lost my card that I really needed to win. We went over Eternal Witness, but Angagari Anointer, which can revive itself, or not something else when it dies. Woe Strider can revive itself. Captain Gothard is 3, a blue and a black for a 3/6 horror pirate. Okay, horrors you control have menace. Giving all your horrors menace is disgusting. It's a great finisher. It's a great way to just push out. And actually, I'm gonna toss this into finishing. I think I forgot to. Boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doo. Finisher. There we go. Finishers, just I'll go over that when I get to them. Or unless that's up here. Yeah, it is. Finishers are just something you drop and you can win the game off of it. And if you have like 5, 6 horrors that are really big and you just drop them and hit someone, you can win the game. But then at the beginning of your when a horror you control deals combat damage to the player, that player mills that many cards, which in and out of itself could be a win con, milling them out. Because they mill that many cards. If you deal like 6 damage, mill. So good against another active way to win in case they have life gain. But in the beginning of your end step, choose a target artifact or creature card in an opponent's graveyard that was put there from their library this turn, put it onto the battlefield under control, which is a nice snatch. Snatching cards from your opponent is great, but that is such a useful ability to be able to just keep getting stuff from your opponents that you might be missing. Oh, I'm missing card draw, or I'm missing recursion, or I'm missing ramp. Great card to do that with. Good commander by himself too. And then Patriarch's Bidding is 3 and 2 black for sorcery. Each player chooses a creature type. Each player returns all creature card types of the type chosen this way from their graveyard to the battlefield. So there's some synergy sometimes, like giving them stuff and milling the grave, but the down pact is, this is a great way to just get all your horrors back, and the following turn drop like Captain and win. So I don't care about lands. There's no fancy lands there, so we'll continue on. Yeah, Frogmouth's got accidental life gain, and accidental life gain is always useful in Commander just to make sure you stay alive. I don't have a lot just on Froggameth because I can just exile non-creatures to gain life, but my Commander also has accidental life gain. Gaining 4 life each turn is pretty good. 2 anthems. Creekwood Liege is 1, and then hybrid green-black for 3 of them, and then 2/2 horror for a 2/2 horror. Other black creatures get +1/+1. Other green creatures get +1/+1. So if it's a black green creature, it gets +2/+2. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a 1/1 black and green warm creature token on the battlefield. It's a nice token to get, but it buffs other creatures. And then Vanquish Commander just buffs all your horrors too. Oh, I didn't put this in Anthem. Or did it get into Tribal? No. Okay. Let's put you into Anthem. There's Tribal. And then Anthem. There we go. This guy's great. So whenever it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. It's got an ETB too. Dang, man. Lots of stuff. But yeah, it enters the battlefield. You choose a creature type, horror. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, put a charge counter on it. That's Magecraft. I forgot to put that in there too. Wow. Cleaning everything up sucks. It'll all come together because these are global tags I use, so the more I do this, the less chance we run into an issue there. But yeah, so Door of Destiny is there we go. Door of Destiny enters, choose horror. Whenever you cast a horror, you put a charge counter on it, and then creatures you control with the chosen type get +1/+1 for each charge counter. So if you get this guy out early and you have like 3 or 4 horrors you cast, now they're getting like +3/+4. All of them, which is great. Great way to just pound on the field. 3 of the counters. Counters just means it does multiple things, usually proliferate. So Thrumming Bird hits opponent, yeah, you proliferate. And it has a nice evasion with flying. Core Prowler has Infect, which means it should be in -1/-1 counter trigger territory. But it's not, because I forgot to do that. No, that's +1/+1. Where's the -1s? I know they're here, guys. What? Is it just not here, guys? I'll deal with that some other time. But yeah, so it has Infect, so you can do poison counters, and then when it dies, you get to put a you get a proliferate. And then Tukathal Inquiry Dominus is 2 and 2 blue for a 3/5 Phyrexian Horror. And it's if you would proliferate, you proliferate twice, which is just great with Atraxa. Doubling of that proliferate's great. And then you can pay 1 and then 2 blue or 4 life to remove 3 counters from it, from among other artifacts or creatures or planeswalkers you control, and then you just put an indestructible counter on it, making it harder to kill. We went over these for the damage outputs. This one's under damage because it's just like, it literally is all about dealing lots of damage. And then Frogmouth triggers off damage. Draw. Wharf Infiltrators, 1 in a blue for a 1/1 human horror with Skulk, so it can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. And then you can discard a card. And whenever you discard a creature card, you may pay 2 generic. If you do, make a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature token. So this does a lot. It's hard to block, because it can't be blocked by creatures with greater power, so it has to be blocked by a 1/X. So there's bound to be an opponent who's open. If you hit them, you draw, you discard, you pay 2 extra money, you make a 3/2 horror. All of that's just really good in my opinion. Command Sphere we went over with, same with Herald, and Realm Walker doesn't do draw. Draw should really just be updated to say like card advantage, but I'm just gonna keep it under draw at this point. So this gives you a card advantage because you're playing with an extra card, which is the top card of your library. Disdain Melodies, 3 in a blue. Choose a creature type, draw a card for each permanent you control that type. So this is great to just draw like 5 cards off of this. Kindred Discovery is 3 and 2 blue. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. When a creature you control the chosen type enters the battlefield or attacks, you draw a card. This card I need to update too. I'll be right back. So it's great. It's a very good way to just keep drawing cards, because not only do you get them off the cast, you get them every time you attack. So that's just a lot of mana, or a lot of draw each turn. We went over Vanquisher's Banner. Kindred Summons is great. This is 5 and 2 green for an instant. Choose a creature type. Reveal cards to the top of your library until you reveal X creature cards of the chosen type, where X is the number of creatures you control the type. Put those cards on the battlefield, then shuffle the rest of the revealed cards into your library. So if you have 5 horrors and you Kindred Summons for 7, you keep revealing till you reveal 5 horrors, and then put all 5 of them onto the field. So great. And now we got Toxrill the Corrosive. It's 5 and 2 black for a 7/7 slug horror. At the beginning of each end step, put a slime counter on each creature you don't control. Creatures you don't control get -1/-1 for each slime counter on them. And then when a creature you don't control with a slime counter on it dies, create a 1/1 black slug creature token. And then for blue and a black, you can sacrifice a slug and draw a card. This card's great in this deck because you put the slime counters on the creatures you don't control, and then with Atraxa, you can just put more. You can double them. So, oh look, they're dying even more. And that die really helps you. The death there triggers his other death because they had a slime counter on it. So now you get a 1/1 slug, and now you can sack that slug to draw cards. So lots of tokens, lots of interactions. There's a reason this guy's a 7 drop. Evasion. Just going over, Evasion's very strong, and there's only 1 new card here, but they're just hard to block. Flying, Shadow, Menace, Flying, Menace, Trample. Having these types of cards so you can make sure you can get into your opponent is really good, especially something with like Shadow. Then the Flood of Mars is great too, because 2 and 2 black. This is my favorite card from Doctor Who, by the way. One of my favorite cards of all time. 2 and 2 blue for a 3/3 alien zombie horror with Island Walk. Okay, so you can always make sure you just hit an opponent with an island, because there's probably going to be one. Water always wins. Whenever the Flood of Mars attacks, put a flood counter on another target creature or land. Okay. If it's a creature, it becomes a copy of the Flood of Mars. If it's a land, it becomes an island in addition to its other types. What does that mean? It means everything becomes an island or a Flood of Mars. So you attack an opponent, one that has an island. Now you choose another opponent and put an island on there, okay? So next turn, you attack with the Flood of Mars. You swing at the other person who has an island, and you turn, okay, now the last person has one. Now everyone has an island, okay? Now next turn, the Flood of Mars attacks. Oh, there's a problematic a creature over there. It's now a copy of the Flood of Mars. Now, if they attack with the Flood of Mars, it triggers the Flood of Mars effects. Put a flood counter on it. Okay? Here's the thing. The Flood of Mars, you can also just choose your stuff. So if you turn your token into a Flood of Mars, next turn when you attack with 2, you can put 2 counters. Now you got 4 guys with Flood of Mars, and now when you start to swing, you go, all your creatures are Flood of Marses. All your creatures are Flood of Marses next turn. And then they're like, you know, let's join in the fun. All your creatures are Floods of Marses. I love it. It's so fun. It's got Island Walk for its occasion. Horrors. Lots of horrors. Let's go over the ones we haven't. Haunted Horrors, 2 black for a 7/7 horror with Trample. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent gets 2/3/3 green centaur creature tokens with protection from black. Give them to the opponent you're not worried about, or the guy you're like teaming up with right now, your friends. Hey, let's be friends. I'll give you 2 3/3s. Cool, and I won't swing this haunted horror at you. Cool. But then you can swing your 7/7 haunted horror at someone else with trample. Oh, you have evasion too, buddy. You got evasion too, buddy. I don't think I was always considering trample evasion, but it is. Ludwig's test subject is so cool. 1 in a black, or 1 in a blue for a 0/3 lizard with defender. 1 in a blue, put a hatchling counter on Ludwig's test subject. Then, if there are 5 or more hatchling counters on it, remove all of them and transform it. So, technically speaking, if you want to just get this out right away, you pay 2, and then 10, so 12 mana, and boom, you get the Lizard Horror, a 13/13 with trample. Little egg, boom, giant lizard. I love this guy. I love the transform mechanic. I love where it is. I love that it's Ludwig's. But a 13/13 with trample is really scary. So, very good card. Metallic Mimic will be a horror once it's on the field. We went over Patchwork and Thing in the Ice. Yes, yes. Okay. Emrakul's of Evangel. A 2 and a green for a 3/2 human horror. Tap, sacrifice it. Any number of other non-Eldrazi creatures. Oh, and any other number of non-Eldrazi creatures. Put a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature token onto the battlefield for each creature sacrificed this way. This is great to do with a bunch of tokens. Oh, you got a bunch of your slug tokens? Boom, sack him in like 13 slug tokens, or like 5 slug tokens. Now you got a bunch of 3/2s instead of 1/1s, right? Or Chasm Skulker died and they board wipe and you get him out, and then the following turn you just sack the 5 or 6 guys you made, and they're all 3/2s now. Really good. We went over. We went over you. Checking for new guys that we have not gone over yet. Here we go. Uchulon, 3 in a black for a star 4 Crab Ooze Horror. Its power is equal to the number of Crab Oozes and Horrors you control. So, horrors, including it, so it's a 1/4, and then if you have like 5 horrors, it's a 5/4. At the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 target creature card from an opponent's grave. If you do, create a token that's a copy of Uchulon. So you exile a creature from an opponent's graveyard. Boom, here's another Uchulon. They both see each other, so the 5 you had now there's 6, and they're both 6/4s. And then the next turn, they both trigger. Boom, boom, 2 more Uchulons. Now your 6/6s are 8/8s, and it gets bigger and scarier and bigger and scarier and bigger and scarier, which is just absolutely great. Last guy here is Psionic Ritual, 4 and 2 blue for a sorcery. Replicate, tap an untap horror you control. Replicate means recasting it. Exile target into a sorcery card from a graveyard and copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Exile Psionic Ritual. So for 6, if you got like 5 horrors, tap them all, steal 5 instants and sorceries from your opponent's graveyards. Absolutely fantastic. It's from a graveyard, so you can target yourself. Interaction is always needed in Commander. If you find yourself going, how am I supposed to stop them, you should have put more interaction. I've noticed my personal decks, I keep forgetting to put enough board wipes in the deck, because in testing, board wipes don't do much. Oh, cool, I didn't really need that. But in practice, in casual games, or intermediate or high power even, the board gets flooded. How am I supposed to take care of their creatures? They're giving them hexproof constantly, or that guy has hexproof because of boots. Oh, look, a board wipe. Cool. So Path and Sword are simple. One white to just exile something. Path gives them a land, a basic land, and Swords gives them life. Arcane Denial will counter anything, and then they draw a card, and then you draw. They draw 2 cards at the next upkeep, and you draw 1. Counter spell counters anything. Heroic Intervention gives all your creatures hexproof and indestructible, which is just such a great way to not die. Patchwork Crawler is interaction because you exile target creature card from... Oh, give me a second. He's not. Grim Gorger is interaction because when he hits them, you exile their graveyard, which is interaction. Not the best interaction, but still removing recurrent pieces is good. Making sure they cannot get to them. Renegade Silent is great because forcing them to attack it can be interaction. Uchulion does exile cards from their graveyard, stopping them. Frogmonth does the same thing. It hits them and exiles them. And then Psionic Ritual is another technically interaction because you are exiling their access to their instant sorceries. So if they're a deck that like recurs them, they can't. Mana Cheat. This is the only card we're using to cheat mana. The more you have a mana cheat, usually it's just a good sign that your deck has like good ways to get stuff out. Mana Sinks. You always want a mana sink in your deck, in my opinion. Probably more often than not, I'd want more than 2, but I don't find myself actively looking for them. If you ever find yourself that you just go, I just wish I had something to do with my mana, this is great. Always something great to do. Oh, I just exile a creature from my graveyard. Or, I've just sacked one of my slugs. Not infinite mana sinks, mind you, but they are mana sinks nonetheless. Mill. I'm running 3 mill cards. We ran over these guys. Death Bonnet Sprout is 1 for a green for a 1/1 fungus. At the beginning of your upkeep mill card, then if there are 3 or more creature cards in your graveyard, transform it. And it becomes a, oh, this is a horror. I forgot to tag it with horror. There. Then it becomes a fungus horror. And at the beginning of upkeep, you may exile a card from a graveyard. If a creature card was exiled this way, you put a 1/1 counter on it. That's also interaction. Dude, like I miss some. Like it's hard to never miss anything. I'll tell you that. But very good card. Mill plus, yeah, because this exiles them. Poison counters, we went over that. Now protection, we went over a lot of them. Protection is different from interaction. I guess technically they are interaction too. Like this, you might say this is just protection, but it technically is interaction because they go to kill something, you go no, and that's interacting with your opponent on the stack. Lightning Greaves and Swift Boots is the same. It's just protection. You're not really interacting unless you can do it at instant speed. But putting this on your creatures prevents them from dying. Vashta Narda is protection because it has indestructible, so it's got protection for itself. Renegade phases itself out. Roaming Throne has Ward 2, and Tekuthal can get itself indestructible. You got 2 sack outlets, not that you really need them. 1 scry outlet, 2 snatches, and then token generation, which we went over all of them, I believe. Okay, yeah, we've got 1 extra, which is a horror, and it just doubles the tokens you make. And then it's just like Tekuthal, Mondrak. You can pay 1 and 2 white, or 4 life, or 2 life and 1 white, and sacrifice 2 other artifacts and or creatures and put an indestructible counter on it, which is pretty good. If someone goes to board wipe, that's when you just go 1 and 4 life, sack those 2, he's indestructible, and everyone goes, then you can rebuild pretty well. These are the tribal cards. Going over the tribal cards that we miss, because I'm dumb sometimes and don't put cards where they belong, like I keep saying. I'll get better at it at some point. I mean, yeah, like guys, when you do this, you really do eventually just miss a lot. Oh, I know what's in here. Give me 1 second. We got Icon of Ancestry, which is 3 for an artifact. It enters the battlefield. You choose creature type. Creatures you control of that chosen type gets +1/+1, and then you can pay 3 and tap it. Look at the top 3 cards of the library. Reveal a creature card of the chosen type from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom library in a random order. This just really allows you to get card advantage and also buff your creatures. Urza's Incubator is 3 generic for an artifact into the battlefield. Choose a creature type. In this case, horror. Creature spells of the chosen type cost 2 less. Just making all your stuff cost cheaper is so good. And the rest we've been over. And then you have your 1 wipe. Again, see, this is the thing. I'm only running 1 board wipe. My decks, as I always state at the end of the things, are a starting place. Look at it. You can buy it if you want to just spend $344.11. You can proxy it if you want. Test it out. See what you think about the deck. And then if you like it in the long run, fix it. Go like, oh yeah, I'm not running enough wipes. Let's remove some cards and put some more board wipes. Maybe some more single target interaction can be removed for some more like permanent, like for some more board wipes. Like, oh, we'll remove like Arcane Denial and keep the counter spell and run an actual board wipe, or You know, I really don't care. Undergrowth Scavenger is great and all, but like every time I get it out, it's like it either just dies right away or someone just blocks it constantly, and I'm not able to actually get in with it. And therefore, I'm just gonna remove it for a board wipe, like stuff like that. You just test the deck out, see how it feels. V-build is just not doing anything in your deck and just sits there and builds and up and builds up, but by the time it's a threat, someone kills it. So, lots of ways to do it. I think horror is a very interesting way, and I think the more horrors we slowly get into Magic, the better. To explain that, we'll go to here, and I'm gonna go to Advance for a second and just show horror. And we'll do. Gotta set these up. Descending and release date. Because there's some new horrors, like horror Shadow Spinner. I would put this in the deck. I'd find a space because this, when he attacks, you may draw cards equal to the number. Yeah, Get Rock is a great horror card you can put in here. Here's another new one. Brain Stealer Dragon might be useful. I built it before these guys came out. Cultivate Ambusher. So, then the rest were there. But like, there's a few that you could choose. Probably Horrid Shadow Spinner. But like, more cards will come out. And the cool thing about Tribal is, as they come out, you can sit here and go, oh, do I want that to be in my deck? Oh, I do. Let's replace that card. Maybe it's just a direct upgrade. Maybe it's a card that you just notice doesn't do a lot, but you got to play the deck. So playing the deck against actual players and find out what your weaknesses are. Atraxa here is great because it itself is, it's a horror, so it gets the buff from all the tribal stuff. So eventually, like, this could become a 7/7. You're 3-shotting people, getting a lot of life, protecting yourself. So she's just a great leader, in my opinion, in most decks. So I like her. I like the deck. If you do, let me know down below what your thoughts are on the deck. Tell me what your favorite card is that you saw in here. And if you ever thought about building a horror deck. And if so, who would you run? Everyone have a great day. Peace.